everybody. Behind me is the Hudson River and of course the stunning New York City backdrop. So we've lived in this area for 10 years. Only recently have we finally gone to explore all the different observation decks around the city. So today I just want to talk about some of that in case you're thinking of visiting one of the observation towers or decks while you're here. And so what I'm going to do is include 6 of them. Usually people say there are 5, but I'm going to include 6. You can include the summit at One Vanderbilt. There's of course the Empire State Building, which is one of the most famous buildings in the whole world. There's the top of the rock at the Rockefeller Center. The Edge observation deck, this is a new one in the Hudson Yards. The Freedom Tower or One World Observatory. And then finally, I'm going to include the Statue of Liberty because there is an observation deck in the Crown and some people like to consider that as maybe one of their options if they're going to go see different views of the area. I'm just going to go off of my favorite to least favorite. So first on my list is actually Summit at One Vanderbilt. Now this is an observation deck that is right next to Grand Central. So that's really a prime midtown location. You're right next to Bryant Park and the New York Public Library, and you can walk up part of Fifth Avenue. I think this is really a beautiful and different observation deck. You have stunning views of the East River. You have a really stunning view of the Chrysler as well as the Empire State Building, and you can see all over the city. You have a great vantage of Central Park. I mean, really this one stuck out. Why did it stick out? Is because there's some different kind of exhibits throughout. It's lined with mirrors all around. So the way that you walk into this observation deck, it's as though you're stepping into the Matrix. I can't think of another way to say it. The way everything is reflecting off the ceiling and the walls and the floor, and as you're walking, I mean, really, it's stunning, and I think it's incredibly unique. So for me, that is my absolute favorite and what I think sticks out the most. Now, they have a cafe up there, so when Z and I went, she actually took me on my birthday, we went upstairs to have some morning coffee and just, really enjoy overlooking the city from this amazing vantage point. I would say it's really a wonderful place to go check out. The main viewpoint, I think it's on the 93rd floor. Just the main observation deck is, I think it's 1,100 feet from what I've read. Anyway, it's really stunning. I love that one, and I think that's a good one to go see. Okay, so my next favorite on the list is the iconic Empire State Building. So ever since we moved here, I have been staring at the Empire State Building. You can kind of see it a little bit, it may be hard for you to see. You can see the spire up here. I have always loved it. We've all seen it in the movies, King Kong, Sleepless in Seattle. It is in all the movies. It's just everywhere. So when we went into the Empire State Building, what's great is this is located on 34th Street. So the surrounding location, you have a lot of different things to go and enjoy. There's the flagship Macy's. You're just around the corner from the Flatiron Building. There's some neat stuff to go see. And of course they have the Starbucks Reserve there, which a lot of people really love. Z was really excited about it, so we got to go and try some different coffee drinks there. So that was a lot of fun. What we did is we bought the ticket to go all the way to the 102nd floor. This meant we had access to the 102nd floor, which is, I think, 1,250 feet. It's incredible. The 86th floor, which I think is 1,050 feet. You also get access to the exhibit. I think everyone has access to the exhibit, which is on the 80th floor. And then you have access to the museum, which is on the 2nd floor, which again, I think every ticket has access to that. Absolutely, and this is true for all the observation decks, really just go early, like when they open. They all get so completely overrun that you're gonna have not as much fun, especially at the Empire State, if you go at any other time. So that's what we did every time we went somewhere. We were the first group to go for the day, and that was important because it really gave us a chance to enjoy everything and get the best vantage of that day and least crowded experience. So I would recommend that if you're gonna do that particular building. You've heard people say that when you come up to the view here, the one thing that you're missing is the Empire State Building. And I was thinking that was going to be true. But what's interesting is when we've been looking, even though it's cloudy and we're looking through the clouds today, it's actually in a weird way made me kind of rediscover and appreciate all the other part of the city when my eye would usually go right to the Empire State Building. Instead, my eye is going, hey, there's the Chrysler Building, here's the Macy's Building, here's Bryant Park or the World Trade or Central Park. And so in a way, I think that's actually something that makes the Empire State Building very unique because it's not in your eye, you're looking from everywhere else, but it's not as much of a negative as I necessarily thought it would be based on what I heard other people say. So just keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about different observation decks to go check out. What's really helpful also is they have signs, by the way, inside that have different directions where they're pointing, so you have an idea of what you're looking at. So if you want to know where Times Square is, there's a little sign that'll point you directly that way. Same with Macy's. If you want to know where Macy's is, there's a sign that'll point you that way. And from here, you can actually see Macy's. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. Well, let's zoom out a little bit. We're going to go right there. That is the flagship Macy's right there on Broadway and 34th Street. It was a very cloudy day that day, but it actually gave the city a bunch of character, which I thought was kind of interesting. I know that would be disappointing if maybe you had flown from somewhere else and this is your view, but I thought it was really kind of unique to see the clouds passing through all the buildings. And if you stayed there, you would kind of see parts of the city reveal itself while others were shrouded in kind of mystery, I guess you can call it. So I thought that was really special. But what's really fun about the Empire State is that when you go up to the 102nd floor, they have floor-to-ceiling windows. You can see everything. It's amazing. There is an access point, not for any of us. It's a locked-off stairway where you can go up to, apparently there's like a deck up there on the 103rd floor. I think Billy Idol recently posted a video of himself singing Rebel Yell from up there, which is pretty cool. So the 102nd floor is beautiful. It's enclosed, fully enclosed, so if it's rain or shine, you're not going to be impacted by any of the wind or rain. The 86th floor is out in the open. It is a bit of a bummer to see the grate or barrier that they have, which will block some of the view, but I guess I always expected it because you've always seen it in the film, so you kind of know that's going to be there. And I thought that just all came with some of the experience. The 80th floor had this really fun exhibit. You can walk through, look at different vantages of the city through different windows, as well as peer through these, what look like the city binoculars. And instead there's like a virtual video in there. So when you look through, you can stare, and as you move this piece around, you can maybe be looking at, let's say, Grand Central, and you're actually looking at people walking around in there, and you can tilt it up and down. Of course, it's video, but their museum was also really incredible. They have these amazing videos of showing how the workers were building this building and flinging these different connectors to each other, and it was really cool. And it really lives up to everything that you could probably picture for the Empire State Building. Okay, so next on my list of favorites is the Rockefeller Center, the top of the rock at the Rockefeller Center. So this is a really exciting place to go because, of course, you're at the Rockefeller Center, which means you can see Radio City Hall. You're right next door to that. You're just in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral. And fun fact about that, by the way, when you see St. Patrick's Cathedral from above and you look down, you will actually notice that the ceiling has been built to show a cross on there. Anyway, so not only are you near St. Patrick's, you're near Radio City Hall, you're not far from Central Park if you want to go walk over there, and you're right by all the fancy shops on Fifth Avenue. Rockefeller Center sticks out a little bit to me for personal reasons. When we first moved here, I worked there for a little while, and I got to work on some of the shows, which was really exciting. So I've seen all the inside of the building, but I never actually went to the top of the building until literally just this year. Also, it's very special to me because Z and I did a maternity shoot up on top of the rock, and it was a really wonderful and sunny day there. That's always made a really big impression. We're sitting here on the top of the rock. This is the third deck of the observation area. Empire State. We've got the Hudson River over here. You can see all the way down to the Statue of Liberty. Of course, the Chrysler Building, my favorite building that I drive Z crazy about every time I mention. The East River. You can even see part of the Manhattan Bridge. But what's also really great from up here is if you just follow me from around the corner, you can see, after you've got this stunning view, it opens up to this stunning view. And look at that, right over Central Park. And this is something that's a little bit unique in the way that the Rockefeller Center is different than some of the other observation towers because you're closer to Central Park than some of the others, and you kind of have this vantage point a little more like this. It's really stunning. What's interesting about the top of the rock is any barriers that are there are fully glass barriers, so you're able to see right out through it very seamlessly, and you have stunning views. You're the closest view of Central Park, and you will have views of all of Manhattan and everything. And it's kind of funny because from the rock, you can actually see the summit, you can see the Empire State Building, One World Observatory. On a clear day, the day that we were there, you can actually see all the way down to the Statue of Liberty. It looks very small, but you can see it. And you can even see the Edge over at Hudson Yards. So it was kind of interesting because when we were there, it was the last observation deck that we went to, and we were able to see all of the other observation decks from where we were standing. So that was pretty neat. At the top of the rock, there is a beautiful cafe where you can go and have your coffee and all those kinds of things. I would highly recommend that. So if you want to have breakfast and have, a cinnamon bun or a croissant or a bagel or some coffee or whatever, it's pretty great because you can sit here, sip on your coffee, and just look right at the Empire State Building. And it's, pretty nice. There are 3 decks to the top of the rock, so you're going to be able to see the city from different vantage. What was fun about the rock is they really try to add some character where they want to help you recreate some of those iconic images of those workers from the 30s sitting on the beam, as they're eating their lunch. So now they've installed some new beams up there that will actually raise slightly above the glass barrier so you can have this beautiful view of Central Park and take some fun photos with your family. And then they have some other beams that don't raise, but they also offer some fun photo opportunities. They give you props, so some people do hammers. We did some photos with little donuts. Overall, Rockefeller Center, really great place. It is the lowest observation deck of all of them, but it was really a stunning view of Central Park, East River, St. Patrick's Cathedral, everything. So I would say that's a beautiful experience, and it was a lot of fun. Okay, so the next one on my list is the Edge. Now, this is in a really interesting area that they've more recently built since we've actually moved up here. We've watched all the buildings. You can see it, but there's a bunch of glass towers over here. There's like this really tall kind of pyramid point over here. That's actually the Edge. That's all in Hudson Yards. And what's really neat about that area is it's right next to one of our favorite parks in the city called the High Line. So if you go check out the Edge, you can walk the High Line. And the High Line is what used to be an elevated train track, and they instead turned it into a park. It gets very busy, but you can walk it from Hudson Yards all the way down to the Meatpacking District, and it's a super easy walk. It's very pleasant. You see wonderful views of the Hudson River. That day, you're going to be seeing the Hudson Yards Mall. There's also this thing called the Vessel. And the Vessel, we got to see it. We got to go inside of that. It's this beautiful sculpture. Unfortunately, they closed that down to where now you cannot climb up it any longer. But from the top of the Edge, you'll be able to actually see all the way down to the Vessel and see all these different areas. Supposedly the highest observation deck in the Western Hemisphere. So I think it's like 100 or 100 and something floors up, all the way up there. That's where we're going to go see. So what's interesting about the Edge is it's an indoor and outdoor observation deck. I will say that it was a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be, but it was still a lot of fun. We, just like our other decks, went first thing when they first opened, and that was, I would say, the right thing to do, because the Edge, I've seen the reviews where there's some people that had some horrible experiences, which I can imagine would be quite horrible if it gets so packed because you can't move around. But because we went so early, we were able to really enjoy everything without having to be elbow to elbow with a bunch of other people. It's still just...
Yeah, I know, right?
Now, one thing that was definitely a downfall about the Edge was they did not have a cafe of any kind. So there was like a little coffee cart or something, but that didn't even open until I think 9. And I think we went even before that, so nothing was really open except for any kind of convenience if you want to grab a bottle of water or something like that. So if you were imagining similar to what we did at the Rockefeller Center or at the Summit, that you're going to be able to have maybe pastry and coffee there, that is not unfortunately going to happen, maybe unless you go significantly later in the day, but it's not going to be a morning offering for you. Now, one thing about the Edge that's kind of interesting, you can get some phenomenal photos, but what you need to do is actually kind of mix some indoor-outdoor. So if you're with your friend, you can put one of you outside on the Edge, and then the other one will stand inside and take photos through the windows while they're standing out there, and you can get these amazing pictures. So that's just a little trick for you if you're thinking of some fun photos to take. Even though I know that we're safe, it's a little unnerving to stand right here. I feel like my legs are trembling a little bit, but you can see behind us at 100 floors up, we can see everything. And even though it's cloudy, it's still
a wonderful view. So I'd say if it is cloudy on the day you're going to come along, just maybe give it a try.
Overall, the Edge was a lot of fun, but I would rank that as number 4 on my list. So the next one on my list, which I would put as number 5, is One World Observatory. Now this building, the Freedom Tower, is phenomenally beautiful, and I love the area, and it's actually the tallest observation deck in the city, I think. From what I read, it looks like that is 102 floors, so you're going to be just like the Empire State Building, 102 floors up. But this one is 1,268 feet, so you're about 18 feet higher than you would be if you go to the 102nd floor on the Empire State Building. It is really a stunning building, and I remember watching them build that, and I think they opened it just shortly after we first moved here. It's a somber place, I would say. Because of the history and everything that happened at the World Trade Center, One World Observatory does carry a lot of gravity with it. There is the 9/11 Memorial Museum right next to it, which I think is a separate ticket. There's also the 2 large fountains where the towers used to be that were constructed to give homage to all of the people who were killed that day. And you can't really go to One World Observatory without thinking of that big day, or at least I couldn't. I think for me anyway, that kind of makes it difficult for me to want to rank it the same way, because I'm talking about the fun aspects of the other buildings, which don't carry that history and the tragedy that it does at Ground Zero. I will say, separate from that, just from a practical point, you are most removed almost from the other areas in the city. So you're in the financial district, which means you're right next to Battery Park. You can go see Wall Street and go maybe walk the Brooklyn Bridge if you're down there, and that's a lot of fun to go do. It's a lot of just different neat places to go and explore, but you are very removed from the rest of the town. And so if you kind of want that view of being closer to the Empire State Building, then you're going to feel a bit more of a kind of eagle eye view maybe from where One World Observatory is. So I would say that's maybe one reason. If I'm just thinking only for observatory reasons and not with the history of everything, that would be one reason why I would actually place One World Observatory a little bit lower down on the list, just because I like to be closer to all the monuments I'm going to go see, and One World, you're further down. So anyway, I would put that at number 5 for me. Okay, and the final one on the list, which some would argue is not an observation deck, and some would say it is an observation deck, but the final one on my list would be the Statue of Liberty. Z and I, we got to climb it, and it was so much fun. We've actually been up twice. So we went up the first time when we captured it. It was brutally cold that day and very windy. We went very early in the morning. We have a video of Z climbing all the way to the crown, which is a lot of fun. And that was really a great time. But it is the most removed from all of the city, and that is going to be pretty much your destination, I think, for the day. So you're going to catch a ferry from the financial district, and then you're going to go, I think the first stop you'll make is on Ellis Island, usually with your ticket, and then you will also then go on to the crown, to the Statue of Liberty. One benefit about the Statue of Liberty is that you can go see the pedestal if you do not have crown tickets, and that's also really a wonderful view. You can see Jersey City, you can see all of Manhattan, you can see part of where the Hudson River and the East River are meeting, and some of the area off into Brooklyn and Ellis Island, all of that. So you'll be able, Governor's Island, you'll be able to see all of those things. The one downer, though, about Statue of Liberty is there is not an elevator to go all the way to the crown. So if you're hoping to, if you score those tickets to go all the way to the crown, just know that you will take an elevator to the pedestal, but not all the way to the crown. That you have to climb the spiral staircase to get all the way up there. So just be aware of that whenever you're thinking of the different observation decks that you have. Now, I would say that this is lowest on my list because it's less about the view of the city in the same way that the other observation decks are, and this one is more about the experience of climbing to the crown if you're able to get all the way up to the crown. Now, you will need to reserve your tickets several months in advance, so this is going to be the most difficult one to get if you end up choosing this. But just know you're probably going to be there for the whole day. It is really a wonderful adventure, but if you're only here for a couple of days, I would maybe recommend going with one of the other observation decks because you'll be able to see the Statue of Liberty from afar, but maybe you won't be able to get in there and climb it. I will also say that the Statue of Liberty, because it's so tight and it's so popular, it can be incredibly crowded. So when we went in the morning in the winter, when it was brutally cold, we had this phenomenal experience because it was less elbow to elbow. Whereas we went first thing in the morning in the summertime, it was very difficult to climb there. There was so overpacked and overcrowded. So there was a ton of helicopters flying around, so it was really kind of, you felt like you were in a little bit of a war zone over there. But anyway, long story short, even though it is a wonderful experience and I loved it, I would place it as number 6. So you may be wondering about whether or not to get an express ticket or a regular ticket. I would say it kind of depends a little bit. For some of the cases when we went to the top of the Rockefeller, we actually went right when they opened and we did not have an express ticket. And because of that, we were able to get right up where we were going, but it was right when they opened. We didn't have to overpay for an express ticket that can be double the cost of a regular ticket. But if you're going to go a little bit later on in the day, if you're able to, you might want to opt for getting an express ticket. We've heard the horror stories. For example, I think the Empire State Building, somebody had written they waited an hour. Or at the Edge, I know also it gets crazy busy, especially during sunset. They had written that it took them something like 2 hours to get down because there weren't a whole lot of elevators bringing people down. So that would be a case where you'd want to get the express tickets. For us, what's interesting, when we went to the Empire State Building, we actually did opt to get the express ticket because we wanted to beat everything. When we first showed up, we spoke with some of the employees and they were saying, you know, you probably didn't need to get the express ticket because you're so early, it's right when we're opening. We thought, well, shoot, maybe we did, maybe we wasted some money. But then as we were able to navigate the different elevators because we had our express tickets, I would say it actually was definitely worth it. Just think about that, but definitely if you're not going to go right when they open, I would most certainly say you should get the express ticket. So all in all of these observation decks, they're really amazing. I hope this has been helpful for you as you're thinking about different types of options, and I hope that the video footage has helped give you a little bit more of an idea, because it can be hard to know when you're reading about which one you're going to go see. But again, rest assured, you're not going to make a wrong decision whenever you go check out these observation decks, regardless of whichever one you go to.